What's up, guys? My name is Aaron Baz, fitness manager for Fit Athletic, and this is your Workout Wednesday. For this week's workout, I'm going to be showing you my favorite shoulder exercises using minimal equipment, a stick, a band, and your body weight to take you through some mobility, stability, and hypertrophy exercises. All right, guys, for the first part of this workout, we're going to be working on shoulder mobility. When you're doing your shoulder mobility, it's all about time and feel. I want you guys to do 2 sets of 60 seconds, focusing on complete range of motion, technique, and your breath to movement. For the first exercise here, we're going to be doing what's called a stick lean. So for the stick lean, it's really simple. You're just going to take this stick and you're going to spike it out in front of your body like this. Let's start with the left hand on top and the right hand underneath. Then I want you to go ahead and walk yourself back and pushing yourself away from the stick. So once you got yourself into this position, tighten your core, squeeze your glutes. Then I want you to drop your head down between your biceps here and press your fists away from the top of your head. When you get into this position here, when you press away, you're really going to feel a stretch in the rotator cuff behind your shoulder. Then I want you to go ahead and I want you to repeat this exercise for about 20 reps or probably around 60 seconds, as I said, for time. Okay? So as you're pressing away from your head, you're dropping your head down between your biceps, pressing that stick away from the head, and then slowly coming back up to gain that range of motion. Okay? So that's going to be exercise number 1. From there, we're going to transition into what we call stick dislocates. When we're doing a stick dislocate, we're working on moving our shoulders through a complete range of motion from the front of our body to the back. So take your hands and put them pretty far out wide on the stick as much as you possibly can, okay? Just about double distance outside your shoulders. Now from here, we're going to start with the stick right here below our belly buttons. A couple things to set up. You want to stabilize the trunk by squeezing the glutes and pulling the rib down toward the pelvis to engage the core. You're also going to want to pull your shoulder blades back and set them down and back like you're sticking them in your back pockets in order to set your shoulder blades, okay? So from there, once you've got yourself into the start position, I want you to take the stick up and over your head like this. Check in with the glutes, make sure they're still squeezed. Check in with the rib to make sure it's still pulled down and your abs are engaged. Check in with the shoulder blades to make sure they're still retracted together. And once you've determined that, I want you to take this stick up and over your head until you kind of hit this sticking point. And then from there, continue to press and dislocate all the way through, trying to bring that stick all the way down from your back. Now, when you're in this position here, it's important to check in again, making sure that your core is engaged, your glutes are still tight, and that your shoulder blades are completely contracted toward your spine here. Now, once you've achieved that, you're going to take the stick back up and over your head without breaking the posture and repeat this here for 20 reps or 60 seconds, as I said. Okay? Number 3 here is going to be what we call a stick halo. Now, that second exercise, we took the range of motion from front to back. The stick halo is great for moving the shoulder from side to side. The shoulder joint is a multilateral joint, meaning it can move in every single direction, so it's important when we're working on our shoulder mobility to emulate that. So when you're doing a stick mobility, the halo exercise, the way you're going to set this up is first you're going to take your hand, you're going to stick it on top of the stick, just like this, and then you're going to grab the stick here with the other hand toward the bottom. Now, take this left hand, push it up overhead, use this right hand here to press that left hand as high as you possibly can. Now, while you've got complete tension between your 2 hands, I want you to slowly make forward rotations with that top hand coming all the way out and wide, and that way you're going to be moving the shoulder from this direction out to the left, back in toward your ear, and back around, kind of making a halo shape up and over your head. Okay? You're going to spin here in circles for about 30 seconds this direction. Then we can go back the other direction for another 30 seconds, for a total of 60 seconds, then simply switch sides. So that's how you're going to do your first part of your workout. That's shoulder mobility, and now let's jump into shoulder stability. All right, guys, part 2 of this workout is shoulder stability. So when you're doing shoulder stability, you want to focus on higher reps or increasing the time under tension. So for this particular part of the workout, we're gonna focus on the 15 to 30 rep range, doing 2 to 3 sets. Now, really important when you're doing your reps that you're doing them very slow and controlled, pausing at the end range for maybe 1 to 2 seconds, focusing on mind to muscle connection. Mind to muscle connection is so important for stability and overall building muscle. So this is a great time to work on your mind to muscle connection. So first exercise we're gonna do here that emphasizes stability in the shoulder joint is going to be a scap push-up or a scapular push-up. This is your scapula or your shoulder blade. So in order to execute this exercise, what we're doing is movement in the shoulder blade by protracting and retracting back and forth in a push-up position. Now, if a push-up position is too hard for you on the floor, you can do this up against a wall as well. The goal here is not intensity. The goal is absolutely just to move the shoulder blade in that range of motion from protraction to retraction. So first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna get set up into a push-up position. Your hands are gonna be directly underneath your shoulders. Your wrists are under your elbows, elbows under the shoulders. You're gonna put yourself in this push-up position here. Squeeze the glutes, pull the belly button all the way up into the spine so that you have a really stable body. Now from here, instead of actually going to the floor and doing a push-up, all we're doing is moving at the scap, right? So on the top of my back, or the back of my shoulders, we're going to be pressing our hands through the floor, really rounding those shoulders forward, focusing on controlling the scapula in that range of motion. And from here, we're gonna drop our shoulder blades down in toward the spine, and we're gonna sit and squeeze in that position as well. So what we're gonna do for 60 seconds here is you're gonna alternate these positions from protraction or a round back into retraction, where you have your shoulder blades pressed in toward your spine. And just focus on that movement while keeping the rest of your body really still by keeping your core engaged throughout the entire 60 seconds. Okay, so back and forth, focusing on moving the scaps in and out toward the spine. Okay, so that's gonna be exercise number 1, 15 to 30 reps, 2 to 3 sets. Okay, so number 2, we're gonna do what's called a toe touch plank. A toe touch plank is also going to emphasize stability in the shoulder joint, because as you alternate hands, you're gonna have to stabilize your upper body with that shoulder in that fully extended position. So to execute this exercise, once again, return to that push-up position. Glutes are tight, belly button is pulled up into the spine, shoulder blades are retracted. Now from here, what I want to do is start on the right side. We're going to take that right hand, we're going to reach underneath all the way down to the toe, hinging the hips upward toward the sky, and going ahead and touching this toe right here. But remember, shoulder stability is going to come from this joint here. So when you have yourself up in that pike position, it's really important to stabilize the shoulder joint. I don't mean your delts right here, okay? When I say stabilize the shoulder joint, I mean using the musculature back here. So in order to make that stability or create that stability, you have to have that shoulder blade rolled back and down like you're sticking it in your back pocket here, okay? So try to keep the shoulder blade in that position as you take the opposite hand and reach toward that toe. So back into this position, reach toward the toe, really stabilize the joint behind the shoulder, and then come back. Then we're gonna switch sides, make sure this joint is stable, reaching underneath, touching the toe, hiking the hips, coming back. Remember guys, 1 to 2 seconds when you get to this position to pause, focusing on mind-muscle connection, feeling that shoulder, feeling your abs engaged, feeling your core engaged. Okay, that's exercise number 2. So exercise number 3 is gonna be a similar exercise where you're stabilizing on one hand, except we're gonna be rotating the body instead of pressing the body away from the shoulder, okay? So back into that push-up position. As always, tighten the core, squeeze the glutes, pull that belly button up into the spine, and then from here, we're going to spin on our toes, and we're gonna rock up onto our side, and we're gonna go and turn our body all the way to this position, so we're trying to draw a straight line between our fingertips here and up at the sky. Now, to create stability, you want to use the same kind of a technique of what you did on that last exercise, where you're pulling the shoulder blade in toward the spine to that end range to develop the stability. So I'm gonna do this again, and I'm gonna show you on the back of my shoulder what is kind of happening. You're gonna see the shoulder blade of the scapula rolling inward toward the spine to hit that end range to create the stability. So here, okay, spinning on the toes, rolling that shoulder blade in toward the spine. There it is, it's at that end range. I'm able to push myself through the floor here, bring that hip way high off the ground, and now draw a dead straight line between my two fingertips, then return to the push-up position. Now as soon as we do that, we're gonna alternate, keep those toes down, come all the way up, squeeze the back of that shoulder really hard, create that stability, gain that mind-muscle connection. Now coming back down and alternating for a total of 60 seconds. Okay, that's the stability piece of this exercise. Next up is hypertrophy, or best exercises to build muscle. All right, guys, this last part of the workout, part 3, is about hypertrophy or building muscle. So for this part of the workout, we're gonna be using a band. I recommend a light resistance band, as we're gonna be performing this part of the workout in a circuit fashion. So whenever you're trying to build muscle, you wanna work in the 8 to 12 rep range. That's gonna be the most beneficial rep range for building muscle, or hypertrophy as we call it. You're gonna focus on 3 to 4 rounds as well of the circuit. The rest is up to you. I recommend resting as minimum as possible. That said, don't beat yourself up to the point where you haven't rested and you can't perform the reps correctly, but try to take as little as rest as possible between exercises and between rounds, because we're using just a little rubber band to do the exercises. So the other thing that we're gonna be incorporating here is something called isometrics. Isometrics is when you keep a muscle contracted really hard for a period of time, which is another method that we use to increase the volume in the muscle or create a pump, as y'all know it. So a couple things here when you're doing this exercise to be mindful of. Setting up, stabilizing, and then initiating the movement is something you should focus on when you don't have a heavy load and you have something like a band. So we'll go through that as we start to perform the exercises, but keep that in mind as you start every single rep. Beyond that, once you have yourself in the position and stabilized and you start to initiate and move through the movement, focus on chasing the pump. This is the fun part. By the end of these 3 to 4 rounds, you should have a serious pump in your shoulders. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the exercises that I want you to perform in a circuit fashion. So first things first, the way you're gonna set up your band here for the first exercise is I want you to grab the band out in front of you, just at about shoulder width apart, okay? We're gonna be doing band pull-aparts, but we're gonna be adding an isometric to it. So to get set up, right, which is the first thing, you need to pull the band apart so that your arms are completely out to your sides like this, okay? Now the second thing is going to stabilize, right? So now that you're in the start position, we need to stabilize. To stabilize this movement, first you squeeze your glutes, then you pull those shoulder blades in. Lastly, you bring that rib down to the pelvis so that everything is completely stable except for the part of the body that you want to move, which is going to be here at the rotator cuff. And then we're going to knock out 12 reps in a row, maintaining that position the entire time. So starting here, pulling out to the side, and then once we're in this position here, we're going to create that isometric. So leave the left hand out, bring the right hand in, then pull the right hand back out and bring the left hand in. So you can see that isometric on the opposite side that we're working, the muscle is just sitting there contracted the entire time. So that's kind of the goal, and that's going to help us increase the pump during this round. And it's an effective tool to help us build muscle while we're working out at home and don't have a lot of heavy weights to be lifting. So focus on isometrics. That's really important while you're using bands. So 12 reps here, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and good. So remember, 3 to 4 rounds of that, but next you're gonna go to a front raise. So to set up this exercise, okay, you're gonna have to use your feet here. So go ahead and step on the band, giving yourself about an even amount of resistance on each side, okay? So Now on the second part of the setup process here is going to be the stabilize. Similar stability to what you did before, squeezing the glutes, pulling the rib cage down, setting the rotator cuffs, and then the start position is going to be a front raise, which is going to have those handles both out in front of your body here at about shoulder height, okay? So from here, we're going to begin the isometric, and we're going to lower the right side while keeping the left side up. Then we're going to lift the right side, and we're going to lower the left, okay? We're going to repeat this all the way until we hit 12 reps on each side, just like this, okay? As a little tip, when you're doing these front raises, you want to be lifting up, but you also want to kind of be squeezing in, as that front deltoid here that we're working lies right here between the middle deltoid and the chest. So I like to come up a little bit and sort of squeeze that front delt in the middle of these two muscles, kind of sandwich it a little bit, okay? So from here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into an iso Arnold press, okay? So if you do, let go of the band, reset. If not, just continue. But from here, we're gonna bring our hands up. We're gonna start in this position, okay? This is going to be the setup. Now we're gonna stabilize by doing what you do with your core. Squeeze your glutes, pull your rib down, pull the shoulder blades together. Now we're gonna press up and rotate overhead, as that's an Arnold press. And then we're gonna create that isometric. So one at a time, pressing up overhead just like this. 3, all the way to 12 on each side. So a total of 24 reps. Something I want you to keep in mind here. And anytime when you're pressing overhead, a lot of people when they press overhead, they do it at the expense of their posture. You see as I'm pressing here, I'm sort of leaning back and I'm hyperextending at the lumbar. Don't do that, okay? You're deviating the kinetic chain or the correct movement patterns when you're doing that, and you're probably not gonna build muscle as effectively in your shoulders if you do it like that. Instead, you're just gonna put excess wear and tear on the joints. So never press overhead at the expense of breaking your posture. Make sure that when you're pressing overhead, you are able to maintain that stability through the trunk, maintain that stability all through the mid-body as well, okay? So pressing up overhead for a total of 24 reps, 12 on each side. Now, last exercise here is called an iso T-Rex, okay? You've probably done T-Rexes, usually do them with dumbbells, but this exercise looks like this, okay? Setup is the same with the band underneath your feet. Stability is the same with the glutes, the ribs, and the shoulder blades. And what we're gonna do to start this exercise here is it starts like an upright row where you're pulling the handles along the sides of your body until your elbows are at the same height as your shoulders. Then when you reach this position here, you're going to rotate, do external rotation up so that your hands are now above your elbows here, where you get this nice little squeeze. Return that movement for internal rotation, then dropping your hands back down to the floor. So here and up. Now create that isometric. Here, up, and down, here, etc., etc. So remember, you're gonna repeat that for 3 to 4 rounds, 12 reps. Rest as minimal as possible in between rounds and exercises, and really focus on chasing the pump. Thank you guys so much. It's been great working out with you today. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the little bell at the bottom of this video if you like what you saw, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.